Welcome back to Paranormal, the New Normal. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy, here trying to make the world seem a little more normal. Does it ever freaking happen? Nah, not really. Not really. We know this by now. Over 200 episodes, and I think I've only had like three that made it more normal. So I would say, the non-normal outweighs the normal. So it's just life. But once again, I bring a guest with me to help me solve life's mysteries and try to make it a little more normal. And my guest tonight is Lindsay Shannon, psychic medium and Reiki Energy Healer, and so much more. And of course, we're going to get into all that in a few minutes. But how you doing tonight, Lindsay?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Living the life, living a hectic life, but banking podcast episodes this week. Yeah, that's right, folks. Third interview of the week out of five. Woohoo! It's what a week. But you know me, folks. I love to talk about this stuff every day, all day. So it's not really a punishment. It's more of a reward to me. But so let me ask you the question that everybody at the show gets asked first. What brought you down the paranormal spiritual path that led you to where you are today?
Um, the simple answer is I think I've always had an interest in ghosts, I guess, and like magic. So like growing up watching Harry Potter and things like that, I think I always knew that that interest was there. And then the older I got, I kind of had some weird experiences that I'm happy to talk about. And I think my interest just grew because of that. I wanted more. I wanted to know more and how I could interact with it.
Well, I mean, good answer. Good. I like the short answer. Of course. Now the question I have to ask is, which house would you have been in?
Is what? Oh, which house?
Which?
I want to say Ravenclaw, just because I feel like they're a little more mysterious and smart. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I see. This is a debate for me always. I wouldn't be Ravenclaw. I wouldn't be Hufflepuff. I straight up would have the straight up Harry Potter debate in the beginning of should I be in Slytherin or should I be in Gryffindor? I have a feeling it might lean more towards Slytherin. I have a feeling just because my personality. But I mean,
Fair
it's just
enough.
the way it's just the way it goes. I mean, I'm fine with it either way. Personally, I would have started my own damn house, but that's also my personality talking. That's my ego. That's my ego talking. It likes to talk a lot. So, so when did you start realizing that you had abilities? Like, at what age was that?
Um, I guess like I was like little telling my mom, like my room is haunted and like showing her like, like come in here like I'm seeing shadows, that kind of thing. But I think I would say maybe like middle school ish. I knew there was like something going on just because like physical objects would move and like my sister's has actually been there for quite a few of those instances. So she's kind of somebody that I can check in with from time to time and be like, that happened, right? Like, I'm not crazy, like you saw that too, kind of thing. But they really started opening up, I would say, maybe like in the past 5 or 6 years. So pretty recently, I would say I'd put more effort into them.
So you actually had a poltergeist in your family house growing up. That is amazing.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, not all poltergeists are full blown destroying things type. They're not all Peeves. Put it that way. They're not all Peeves, but they who they left out of the damn movies. But we won't get into that. But I mean, yeah, they're not all bad. So it was. I mean, if physical objects are moving, that's technically a poltergeist. So yes,
Yeah.
that's one way to wake up to it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it wasn't anything like crazy or like scary usually. I mean, I say that now. At the time it was probably scary just because the first time it happened it was in our garage. We were like looking for a bike pump and we scoured like every inch of that garage and we turned around and the bike pump was like in the middle of the room. So that was scary, it's like jarring to see something like that. But nothing was like thrown at our heads or anything crazy like, that happened in the movies.
Well, thankfully,
Yeah.
small miracles.
Yet.
But so you said 5 or 6 years ago your abilities really started to awaken. What was that? What was that spiritual awakening like? Because 5 or 6 years ago, I mean, that was kind of actually it's kind of surprising because okay, well, not really surprising, but I guess you weren't one of the COVID awakeners. But I mean, a lot of people awoke during COVID. That's been a big topic on this show. But you apparently kind of awoke right before COVID, which is interesting in its own way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess COVID is probably a decent benchmark. I started noticing like an awareness, kind of like in my mind's eye opening up around then. And then I started getting more like bombarded with like sounds, or like falling asleep at night. I would kind of like hear like people talking almost like you would in, like if you were in a crowded restaurant, you can kind of like hear them from a distance, but you can't quite pick out words and sentences. And then I think just over time they kind of got like stronger, more pronounced, to where I could understand them better.
Interesting. So, do you are your abilities the type where they're always kind of on, where you always can sense things, or do you have to kind of like activate them when you want to use them?
To an extent, I would say they're on, in the sense that like I feel like I'm a pretty good read of people or situations and can kind of like manage accordingly. But as far as like, really tuning into somebody's like energy and like life path, and to the point of where, they expect me to tell them things in a psychic reading, I usually need some time to kind of like meditate and be still, to concentrate and have access to that. I don't I don't typically like see auras or anything, but I do sometimes have like, like the ringing in the ears, or like little things happening out in public when I interact with people and it's almost second nature now. Like I don't ever really mention it to people. It's more of just like a context that's created for me. And I think, everybody's probably got it to some extent, like instinctual, um, intuition, I think, is kind of a thing. Like, if you like, we can sense danger, from certain situations. And, I'm definitely of the camp that you don't need to know what that means to act on it. But anyway, rambling, but
Well, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, everybody has their flight or fight moments,
mhm.
and that's kind of an innate human ability in a way. I mean, we don't all have a robot following us, danger, while Robinson, danger. Like, we don't all have that. So, I mean, we need to have that ability. So, it's just how it is. But, I mean, I feel like, so basically, from what you're saying, when you want to do it, when someone actually wants you to do like a full on reading, you got
Mhm.
to kind of like warm the engine up before it gets going.
Yes, yes, more
Which, I
often.
mean, that's perfectly normal, of course. I mean, I've I've had a lot of people, a lot of mediums have to do that. I mean, it's just people can't expect you to be on 24/7, and I mean that would be exhausting, and that would be dangerous to a human mind. I think to be on like that all the time, like it just you'd go. I think eventually it would make you go insane if you're on all the time. Like just, I mean, like a light bulb. Eventually it would just get too bright, and but
Right.
so makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think boundary setting energetically is very important. I'm not sure if you've spoken with anybody about that sort of thing, but like protecting your energy bubble, kind of, so
Hmm.
that you have control over, yeah, like what's coming in. Because I have had plenty of readings where, especially mediumship readings, where there are like spirits and personalities involved that, they really have things to say to the person, the sitter. They will kind of show up for me like a day or two in advance, if I don't set those boundaries. And I mean, again, nothing crazy. It's just more of like an awareness of, it's kind of like you feel like somebody's in the room, and then things start popping into my head. So you kind of have to set boundaries if you want them. Otherwise, some of those things do, yeah, kind of stay turned on.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, and yeah, you're not the. Yeah, you asked me this, so I'll say like I've talked about. Of course, we've talked about spiritual boundaries on this show before. I mean, it's a big topic with psychics and mediums because that people need to understand you're not superheroes. You're just people with extra abilities. Like you don't have you're not invincible. Like you need to have that protection. Otherwise, bad things could get in and do some damage. So
Yeah.
because not every spirit out there is exactly nice or has good intentions for the person trying to help them. So
Very true. Very true. And just like emotions, like, we all have our stuff going on, stress, anxiety, what have you. And if if I allow other people's emotions into my aura, into my energy circle, like, you're kind of doubling up on that anxiety or whatever it is, and kind of like housing it for however long until the reading. So, um, I think, it's just very important to me. And you gotta watch out for your mental health. So
oh yeah, mental health is extremely important. I mean, trust me, it's once you lose it, it doesn't come back usually. So you got to keep your mental health pretty damn good. So what do you recommend though for people who are not psychic mediums? Like how do they project? How do they protect their energy? Like how do they make their own energy bubble if they're not in tune with their abilities yet? Because everybody has abilities. We just have to learn how to activate them.
yes, I agree very much so. I think breath work is a really simple and like easily accessible way to ground yourself and sort of kind of come back and recenter to yourself. Visualization's really great. I use a visualization every night before bed. I well, my visualization involves like the Reiki white light, but you can just kind of envision like a bubble of light kind of surrounding you because I think, when we sleep, we're in a more open state, right? We dream, we
Mhm.
astral travel, and things can kind of come and go, interact with us a little bit easier. So I find it helpful for like a better night's sleep to visualize before I fall asleep. Um, but yeah, those are two I think really easy and kind of like understandable for most people. Most people know what breathing and and visualizing is. So
I mean, I agree. And yes, when we sleep, it is a more we're open, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, I personally just in the last 6, 7 months, I started dreaming again, and I haven't dreamed in years, and
wow.
it's trippy because I'll wake up like in a sweat, like what the hell was that? Like, and I mean, it's funny because when I was younger and I used to dream all the time, it was like premonitions. It was like
Oh,
these not not no Nicolas Cage knowing premonitions like there's gonna be an explosion here tomorrow. No, it's like this conversation's gonna happen here in like 3 to 4 weeks, maybe a month or two. You'll recognize it when it gets there, but it's not gonna have any significance to you at all. And sure enough, it would happen, and it had no significance to me at all. But it's just like, why am I dreaming these things that don't matter? Like, it's just like, why am I seeing these things? Like, do they actually matter? And I just don't think they do. Like, to this day, I still can't figure it out. It's been like 20 years of that since that started happening. So I don't know. It's just
yeah.
not once has it made something happen that I wanted to happen. So I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. But now
It
my
might.
dreams are all trippy.
No, I was just gonna say it might just be a way for like, either like your guides or just like the universe to like show that you are connected and to like that it's there if you want to explore it. It's like no pressure, but
Exactly. I mean, huh? Never thought about it that way. That's sorry.
no, you're good.
Fucking yeah, babe.
Yeah, I think
But
dreams are very like significant, if you like allow them to be, because I think the more you pay attention to something, it grows, right? That's just science, that's physics or whatever. I'm not a genius or anything, but um, if you give it attention, it grows. So it might be worth something exploring.
see, yeah, I don't know. It makes sense. I mean, I know everybody has their spirit guardians and like that. It's just I never mine don't communicate with me in any shape or form. I've been told
Hmm.
things. I've had people who talk to their spirit guide on a daily basis tell me like my spirit guide says your spirit guide's right next to you. You can't communicate with them yet. I'm like, when am I gonna be able to start? Because I would really like to know some things. Like I really would like some guidance in this life. It'd be so much better if I had some guidance in this life. But maybe I do, and I just don't know it. I mean, maybe maybe it is those little instincts that I get, those nudges that every human gets. That it's like you have to do this, and it's like okay, I'm gonna do it, but I don't want to do it. I'm gonna do it, but I don't want to. But it's in I don't know. Usually makes it work out for the better somehow. But so,
Totally. It
so
could just um
oh, go ahead.
your dreams, like I feel like if you asked them to like send you messages in your dreams, like if you already know that that's like a gateway for you, might, I don't know, just some food for thought.
Maybe I'll have to do that. Maybe I'll have to do that. Yeah, I definitely, yeah, I could try that. Can't hurt,
Yeah,
hopefully, hopefully. But yeah, you gotta be a skeptic. You gotta be. But
right.
so I mean, yeah, well, in my personal opinion, everybody should be at least skeptical of everything because if you, my one of my high school English teachers had a famous saying on a plaque in his room, and it said, you believe nothing you hear and only half of what you see. So I mean, skepticism is and that saying to me has always been genius because it's true. Like you shouldn't believe anything until you see it, and then still question your eyes because
Hmm.
sometimes our eyes make us see things wrong for certain reasons. But
Yeah,
why is that star moving? Oh, it's not a star. Oh, it's a star. Okay, go back to bed. But
yeah,
it's I mean, I don't know. I feel like skepticism is healthy for people. Like they need to have it. If people believe everything they hear, everything they see, then it's just what are you really doing? Are you just going through the motions, or are you trying to actually figure stuff out? Like that's my with life in general. Like that's just my theory. But
yeah. So how do you explain like the gut feelings then? Like you were saying, you feel like they typically help things work out for the
well,
better. You can't see those.
I mean, you can see them in a way, just not with your eyes. You see
Okay.
them you see them with your mind. You see them
Hmm.
with you see them with your inner mind. It's just that fight or flight instinct is a natural thing. We don't see it coming. We don't see it. We don't get warning. It just happens. And same as if you're driving and you get that feeling all of a sudden like I should slow down. I don't know why, but I should slow down. And
Hmm.
oh gee, you could have been in an accident if you didn't slow down. If you went another 20 feet without slowing down, maybe you would have gotten in an accident. Who knows? Maybe by you slowing
Yeah.
down, you avoid it. You avoid someone or I've had it happen like on a almost almost on a biweekly basis at least once where like I'm driving on the highway to work or something or on my way home and I'm just like you should slow down and then as soon as I do the car in front of me slams on their brakes and it's just like okay
Listen. That's
yeah
crazy.
it's I mean and maybe that is our spirit guides in a way like nudging us on in a way where we won't know it's them. Maybe it's
Yeah.
your guardian angel or whatever you want to call it, like whatever your belief system is, but
Hmm.
maybe it is just something looking out for you and that's the important thing. I mean, we all need somebody looking out for us because Lord knows that not all humans can be trusted, and there's not always other humans around to guide us. So we needed
Right.
things outside this world. So and that belief's been there for thousands and thousands of years. So I mean, it's got to have some basis to it in reality.
Yeah. I
So
would think so.
so let me ask this before we'll jump into the Reiki stuff in the second half of the show, of course, because I like to save that for last because Reiki is a fun topic for me. But
Yeah.
in your mediumship, because I'm assuming you do it as a career to some degree, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So I always like to ask this to psychic mediums. What was the one, and you don't have to give names, of course, ever. I don't expect that.
Yeah.
But what was the one reading you did that had you so awestruck, like could be in tears, could be just massive sadness or tears of joy, whatever, which way? That's the first one. And I'll let you
Okay.
answer that for in a second. But
Um, I think, well, two kind of stand out, and I think it's because it was earlier on in my mediumship that I was learning, and I think it really kind of blew my mind. to to really see how my body could interact with spirit, and really in a really intellectual way, like a really smart, conscious way. I had one sitter who's, I think it was like a great grandfather or something, pass in a mine fire, and my body, like I felt like I was like breathing cold air. So that was super interesting. It was just like really hard to breathe, and like almost overwhelming. So it was really kind of awe inspiring to have her validate that. And then similarly, and honestly, tragically, I had a friend who I read for that had a friend pass before his time, or he had a hand in his own passing.
Oh,
And so that
always a
was,
hard one. Always a hard one.
yeah, I think that one sits with me probably the deepest. I got along really well with the sitter just on like a personal level, and I think for that reason, like her friend came through very strongly, and I felt very connected to him, kind of like in some time after the reading as well. So I don't know. I'm just always honored with how much the spirits are open with, and how much I mean, how much the sitters are open with as well, but just how much can really come through if you let it, if you let that connection um, be open. But yeah, I think I would say probably the one with my friend who had a friend that passed tragically. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even talk about those, but I mean, because those are just always so tragic endings where something like that.
Mhm.
I mean, especially for psychic mediums who are reading like into this, like to see that on a spiritual level is a whole nother thing. Like hearing about it's one thing for sure. I mean, it's gonna make everybody sad. Everybody gets upset about it, of course. Natural. That's natural. But to actually see it on like the spiritual side, or to see the spirit after, that's a whole new level that most of us, including myself, will probably never understand. That we'll never truly understand what it's like to see that. And every time I've heard a psychic talk about it, it's always a heartbreaking experience for them. It's always like something they remember for the rest of their lives. It stays with them. It's not. I mean, I've talked to psychics who have been seen over 5,000, 6,000 clients in the time they've been doing it, and those are the ones that stand out. Like, well, those and some of the more terrifying ones, of course. But I mean,
Sure. Yeah, the emotions that they give you to like validate are always really hard for me. I always like preface my readings with like I usually cry, like it's never a bad thing. It's usually just like information or love coming through. Um but I mean, yeah, like to your point, it's also a hard like any medium, I'm sure, will tell you like you're constantly evolving, constantly learning, right? Like the language of spirit is not always the same person to person, and you're kind of just this active translator doing the best you can. So in a sense, you're always learning, and I think I take it very seriously that you know I don't ever want to like overstep and discuss anything that seems, insensitive, just because I'm trying to learn in this space. Like they're here to receive the messages, and that's the priority. Um, but anyway, I hope that makes sense. It's just like I take my that position very seriously because you're delivering such sensitive topics a lot of the time.
yeah, of course. I mean, you got to be gentle with it. It's fragile material, basically. But and yeah, it makes sense, 100%. Well, the other experience I always ask about when I have psychics on is, and I already kind of hinted at it, but what is the most terrifying experience you had? It could be nail biting, it could be run like Scooby Doo and Shaggy when they see a ghost. Like either way, like
Oh man. I mean, I think for me personally, it's just always freaky to kind of like feel woken up by something, or like feel like something's touching you. I've kind of developed a theory about like, I don't think like ghosts and spirit necessarily touch us. I think that their energy interacts with ours in a way that it creates like a familiar sort of like physical feel for us. But I've definitely had I've definitely had something like wake me up out of bed and it felt like something fully pushed me to the point where like I rolled over and woke up. And I think that was probably, I don't like the word scary, but it was definitely the most overwhelming thing because it was so abrupt, middle of the night. I had some personal things going on too, so I was like, "Is this related?" Um, but yeah, like middle of the night things, I think, are usually a little more. They make me more jumpy.
Well, I would imagine, like when you're half asleep, especially, it's never a fun thing to have a spirit just pop up, especially when it wants to interact with you in a physical way. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I could imagine. I've had, as all the listeners of my show do already know this, but I live in a haunted house, basically. Well, house with spirits. I don't like to call it a haunted house because nothing really
Mhm.
happens that's scary. But like I've woken up in the middle of the night and like because I feel like something's climbing on the bed and I'm like, no, not my daughter. I'm like, what the hell? It's just like, okay, going back to bed now. Going back to bed. Don't think
Yeah.
about it. Just go back to
I mean,
bed.
I will
Sleep.
talk out loud to like spirits and stuff, and I think I freak my sister out sometimes because she's she likes to hear about it. She doesn't like to experience it, even though she kind of gets roped into it sometimes when we're together. Um, but yeah, I will like hotel rooms even, like I'll like speak out loud, be like, I'm just trying to get a good night's sleep tonight, okay? I don't want anybody waking me up. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And Laura, my sister, is just like, I don't know why. I don't know why you're doing that, you know?
I mean, it. Well, those who those who can experience well, those who don't experience always want to experience. That's what it is. And those
Hmm.
who can are just like, I deal with this enough and I'm awake.
Yeah.
Like that's basically the bottom line. But and hello, Joanne. Thank you for joining us, always. And Canada. Ooh, I know a few Canadians. They're fun.
Yeah.
But
Good people.
oh
Hmm.
yeah, fun people. They don't mind me being a jackass and making Canadian jokes. But so, but there's never been an experience where like, well, okay, I'm just gonna come out and ask what kind I'm hoping to hear in a way,
Hmm.
but it's okay. It's okay if the answer's no. It's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever done any kind of medium work where it brought you in contact with a darker spirit, or as some may call it, a demon?
Um, not not that I've, I guess, been aware of. And I actually heard something interesting. Basically, something to the effect of people that are with they act with good intentions, and especially people that choose to be attuned to healing energies like Reiki and things like that. Um, it's almost like they kind of like miss each other, like they're not on each other's radar. I don't know how true that is or how, like some people may disagree with that, but um, it's been my experience that anything that kind of came up as like off-putting ultimately had a reason or like an explanation later on. I never felt like out of control or in the presence of something scary. Um, Not that I can think of anyway. Maybe like briefly, like, but yeah, nothing extensive, luckily.
Do you do any paranormal investigating at all with a team or anything, or solo?
No, not officially. I mean, I love a good ghost tour, you know, things like
Uh,
that, but not
I
officially.
have to, I have to ask because a lot of mediums do work with like paranormal investigating teams love to have a medium on board because it adds to the experience and you could find out a lot more if you do. But
Yeah, I
it's
should
great.
maybe.
I'm sure there's some in the area wherever you live, and I'm sure there's some there. There are some in every part of the world, so
Mm,
it's a big thing nowadays. I mean, the network guy that I'm streaming on right now, Parapost, actually does like a global ghost hunt every year where the teams from all over the world like all go ghost hunting the same day. So,
oh, that's
and
cool.
and they all broadcast it. So it's like basically a channel where you can switch back and forth between different streams of people investigating. So
That's
it's
really
yeah, it's cool. It's a cool thing to do. I think they started in 22 and then they did it in 23. Actually, no, they started in 23, I think, and then they did in 20. Oh no, they had to start 22, yeah, because I know they've done two of them already. So yeah, I think
Okay.
it started in the fall 22, and then they did it again in 23, and probably gonna be an annual thing at this point, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But all right, let's start. Let's head into the Reiki portion of this because
Okay.
I am a lover of Reiki. So
Are
when
you?
did you? Oh, I'll I'll get into that in a little bit. Trust me. It's one of those things I have to bring up every freaking time, much to my listeners' dismay, probably. But
Love it.
they're probably like this again. But I mean, when did the Reiki part of you awaken? Like, because I know it usually happens at different times. So when did that awaken in you?
Yeah, the Reiki actually was I think like one of my first official like development steps, I would say, because I hadn't really heard much about it, didn't really know much about it. I was actually more interested in like clairvoyance specifically, like you said, like seeing with your mind. Because I kind of felt that awareness like expanding. So I was looking up, just looking, like, Googling, trying to find what I could on the internet. And I came across a Reiki website that was kind of doing a good job of explaining the different clair senses. And so I was like, okay, these must be connected. And I just kind of took a leap of faith, followed one of my little gut instincts, those one of those pushes, and took a Reiki class, or I guess got attuned to Reiki, and the psychic stuff kind of just came pouring through. So like I feel like the Reiki helped open the channel for me. I really feel like it brought in a lot of healing and cleared out my channel, so to speak, so that the psychic stuff could really come through a lot more clearly. So that was probably a few years ago. I mean, 5 years ago, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, the reason I'm so into Reiki is because not the first, but one of the first Reiki experts I interviewed in the show. God, has to be almost a year ago now. It has to
Mm,
be almost a year ago, and like we had we just recording the episode. We ended up having like a connection, kind of like we could tell
mhm.
at the end of the episode. She's like, she's like, if you're interested in Reiki this much, she's like, I could work with you for a period of time, and and we worked out a deal, so I could do it without having to, spend money I don't have. and and yes, folks, I am talking about Jassy. Those ads you heard for 6, 7 months of my podcast, 4 episodes. That was her. Um, but I mean, I worked with her for a long time and through a very hard, dark period of my life the last year or so, where I had to deal with a lot of family court bullshit and everything else, and it's just like it's when you're dealing with someone who is so dark and is just a purest form of an enemy,
Mhm.
that like to have someone help you go through it like a Reiki expert, it's just mind-blowingly a relief. Because no matter how dark your mind gets, no matter how tight your head gets, like when you get to see them and they do what they do, it's just gonna the energy's just gonna escape from your head and in your mind, and you're gonna be freaking like I would literally be tearing up at the end of sessions, like just feeling it all like go, like would just be like such a relief. It's
That's
incredible. And I'm not gonna lie, the first few people I interviewed who do Reiki, I wanted to believe them, but part of me was also like playing the skeptic and like
sure.
I don't see how this would work, especially like over Zoom and stuff. And then
Hmm.
wham bam, thank you, ma'am. I found out the physical way that it works. Like holy crap! Like when you can actually feel it working, it's just mind blowing. And I advise everybody out there, if you haven't had a Reiki session done, get one done. You do not know what you're missing. It's a cleanse that your body needs, your emotions need, your mental health needs. Like it's just and whew,
Totally. I love that that was your experience with it too, because that was mine. I actually was a skeptic like way back. I can't remember if I got a session done before I looked into like getting attuned to it, but my first session that where I was receiving the Reiki, same thing, like mind blowing. I was like seeing colors and like all kinds of stuff, and I was just like, "What is happening?" I was not, I've always been open to these kinds of things, but kind of to your point, like it's hard to wrap your mind around how universal it is and like how people can do it over the phone and over Zoom and from a distance, and have it still like, work really, really well.
I mean, it's almost scary in a way how well it works. Like it almost like makes me jump back and be like, yeah, I don't know. Like that's crazy how that worked. Like, and like after the first one, I mean, it's like anything else. You do it enough, and you start getting a little numb to the effects of it. But I mean, it's after the first couple, it felt like there was actually something missing from inside me, like when I got done. Which
Hmm.
I mean, there was, but it wasn't something I want inside me anyway. So I was happy it was gone, but it's just like you feel like there's something missing inside you for a while after the first couple times. Then eventually, after 5, 6 sessions, like you don't even feel that missing anymore. It's just gone, and you know it's gone because you could feel it's gone. You felt it leave you. So
Hmm.
I mean, you're always going to feel it leave you. That's the scary part. That's not even the scary part, but that's just like the creepy part. So you're always going to feel it leaving you. And it's just like, like
Right. Consistent results.
exactly. I mean, and you know that energy. I mean, we all know that energy doesn't abide by the rules of time, place, or any of that. So it makes sense that it can work, but at the same time, it's just kind of still awe-inspiring. Still awe-inspiring. I mean, it really is. So
Totally. The attunement process was definitely overwhelming for me, but I know what you're saying, how you kind of feel this like something's like lifted out of you completely. Um, and that was a totally different experience from like just receiving Reiki from another healer too, I would say. But like in a good way, but I was exhausted for like 2 days after that. I think it's like your physical body kind of has to adjust to like, okay, this is how we're existing now without this like energy weighing us down, like how do we adjust and move forward? And yeah, all good stuff though.
I mean, it's trippy. Like literally, when she would say like, feel roots coming out of the ground and going into your feet, like you feel like something went into your feet and like it's pulling you down, and it's just like this is so fucking weird, and it's just like oh my god, what the fuck? Like it's almost like am I tripping? Is this what tripping is?
Right.
Like it's just oh my god, it's mind blowing, mind blowing. I mean.
Yeah.
That's why I personally like Reiki. I mean, it's I mean, helped me through a tough time. I kind of miss it at this point because it's been a while since I had one now.
Mhm.
I'm guessing I'm thinking since like December, if not longer. But it's been a long time, and it's just like kind of. But part of me also feels like I know I could do it myself
Yeah.
because I mean, she gave me a meditation and everything to do. Like I used to do it every night before I went to sleep, and I just kind of got out of the practice because one of those nights you're just a little too tired and you don't want to waste the minute and you just want to be like, all right, going to sleep.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I mean, it's just I really should get back into it because I would go to sleep every night feeling like my body was like glowing, and
Yeah.
it's just, oh, I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's definitely something that I've found clients, it's like a resounding, like they always get great sleep after, which to me makes perfect sense, like you're cleansed, you're relaxed. Um, but I mean, yeah, that's just one of the benefits.
one of many because
Yeah.
this is for all the guys who will listen to this and be like, I ain't getting Reiki done. I don't need that fairy stuff. Like, trust me, dude. Trust me. Let me just say, no blue pill need after Reiki. Woohoo! When they clear that darkness out of you, they clear the darkness out of everywhere.
Right.
And
And a good healer
it's
will make you feel like in control and safe and like, not crazy or like,
well, yeah. I mean, crazy. Well, the crazy part maybe sometimes will still be a little crazy, but
sure.
that's that's not always the darkness inside you. That's just sometimes personality traits. But I mean, yeah, it works for everything. You feel rejuvenated in every way after Reiki, and it's just mind blowing. Energy healing works. It really does. And I mean, I am still kind of skeptical of energy like pain relief. Like people who say they can actually like heal any pain over
Mhm.
Zoom. Like I've had a couple done, and not all of them like actually work. I mean, even though like I do everything they tell me to do, I try to like put my mind to it and say it's gonna work. It still just doesn't exactly, take off the way it should. But
Yeah.
you'll get up in your back, somebody like, oh my back, okay, that didn't work. But it's just what it is. I mean, it's not. I don't know. There's
Yeah.
good and bad. There's good and bad for every freaking thing on the spiritual side. So who the hell knows?
Yeah, true. And I think physical pain sometimes is more of like a product of a deeper seated, um,
Hmm.
something like emotion like lodged somewhere, and that might just take some more maintenance, some more time, and some more focus. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Physical pain can come from a lot of mental sources as well. So that's 100%. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Trust me.
Mhm.
It's sometimes you gotta cut some ties in order to make yourself feel better. That's just life, folks. Don't.
Yeah.
So before, well, not really before anything special, but what would you say was your most memorable Reiki experience healing somebody,
Healing somebody.
or any Reiki experience? It doesn't have to be healing, but I mean, whichever's whichever's
Yeah.
most memorable.
Um, I mean, again, it's probably something that goes back towards like the more beginning of my development, just because everything was so new and like, oh, that's crazy. I've never had that done, like, happen before. But I think it was probably the first one where, we were doing the Reiki energy healing, but I also had a lot of my psychic stuff coming through, and luckily this woman was really open to hearing like messages in addition to the energy healing, um, and I think it was just validating that I was able to like hit on a lot of the spots that she was physically feeling, but there was also like an image of like this young girl that ran up to me with like a blanket. It was so specific. I remember her like exactly what she looks like a little brunette, about waist high. And she ended up saying that this was like a childhood memory of hers that she's kind of like hung on to for quite a while. So I think that was something that really stuck with me, just in the sense of like, um, something that was coming through that really needed attention, you know what I mean? And that it was getting taken care of in the Reiki session, and it was just being acknowledged like via an image that I was able to like portray to her. So that was really special.
Sounds special. That's awesome. Uh, that's what I love about these type of stories is when it's helping people, it makes it all the better. Like that's what you hear. That's what people hear a lot of this show is just stories about people being helped or even animals being helped. I thought animal communicators are one of my favorite freaking topics in this world. I don't know. I like hearing stories about people helping horses and dogs and stuff. The exotic animals. That's what I'm always looking for is the exotic animals they work with. Like it's just like that's what I want to hear. Tell me about working with a monkey. Tell me about working
Yeah.
with a snake. Like, and I hate snakes, but tell me about working with a snake because it's hard. Like it's hard. But actually, I think I even used parcel tongue in one of my episode titles because the guy worked with snakes. So.
That's awesome. I know. I wish I was more, I guess I'm more of like a nonverbal like animal communicator. I don't necessarily like claim to be able to like verbalize their thoughts and emotions, but I do remember when I was getting attuned to Reiki, it like just out of curiosity, I kind of like tried to like send a little my dog's way. He was just like laying on the
Hmm.
couch with me, and he like sat up immediately. I thought that was so interesting. I'm like, okay, so like animals are very sensitive. They feel what we feel, even more so probably.
Oh, your dogs know if you're having a bad day without you even having to do anything outrageously in front of them. Like it just they can just sense it. Like they can sense that something's off. Just your mood when you walk in the room. There's like, huh?
Right.
Huh. But it's just my dogs can do the same thing. Like if I walk down the basement to like feed them dinner or something, like they'll look at me and they'll be like they're either running around because they know I'm like in a decent mood or they're just standing there looking at me like, what's wrong? What happened today?
Yeah.
Tell us,
Yeah, I
give
guess.
us our damn food, but tell us about it.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess just as you were talking, like I do get little like inklings of like my dog will look at me a certain way, and I'm like, oh, you need this or whatever, and it's like you can't really explain how you know, but you just know that that's what they need from you.
Because I mean, all animals are more connected to the energy field than we are. Like they all have senses that more than we ever will. That, well, at least most of them. I mean, I'm sure there's some animals out there that just, what was it? An animal medium told me about one animal that just didn't. Oh, I guess it was kind of no fit. It had to be like a slug or something or a bug because like
Oh
fish
wow.
actually. I was thinking fish, but fish are actually like they can communicate with fish very actively. Some of them, so
Hmm.
it's. I'm like, then come with me to the aquarium. Let's talk to sharks. But
Yeah.
that's what I want. That's what I want to do. But
Like dolphins.
I think sharks would be more interesting, honestly. But that's just me. I like sharks.
Oh, I agree, but I just people say that dolphins are so smart. I just wonder what they what they have to say, you know?
I'm pretty sure we all know they would say goodbye and thanks for all the fish. But what with all this spiritual journey you've gone through, what would you say is number one lesson that everybody could learn from your experience? The number one lesson you could say to the world if you had 1 minute to say, well, you can take as long as you want, obviously, but if you had 1 minute say something to a conference full of thousands of people, like, and they said like, say the message you want to spread, like, what would it be?
You know, I think it's not it doesn't pertain specifically to mediumship or Reiki, but I think something that I've taken away from this development is how important it is to do things before you feel ready, and to listen to those nudges that we get, because just because you don't feel like you're ready doesn't mean that you can't do something. And I think following curiosity is so important, and a big part of our happiness in life. So, like if I waited till I understood Reiki, or like if I waited until mediumship kind of like knocked me over the head with some kind of big billboard or something, like I wouldn't be here. I think it's really important to kind of like just step outside of your comfort zone. Nothing too detrimental, but you know, something to the effect to like push your boundaries, grow as a person, and um, then in turn give you the confidence to do more. So that's just something I feel pretty strongly about.
Which, I mean, that is actually a good message. I mean, everybody should step outside their comfort zone once in a while just to, I mean, hell, I've done it more than my share of times stepping out, doing things I didn't want to do, going places I didn't want to go. So I'm like, you know what? It's something I should do. It's something I should do just because I don't want to do it. I mean, it's a lesson I try to teach my kids all the time. Like, yeah, they're shy. They don't want to go be the first to go talk to another kid and be, like try to strike up a conversation. I'm always like, do it. Just go say hi, start talking. Like, trust me, you might become best friends. You don't know how it's going to end. They could ignore you and walk away completely, and guess what? That sucks. But you gotta live with it. You just gotta live with it. Like it's a life lesson. Like
Totally.
it's just, I mean, you just gotta do things sometimes, even if you don't want to. I mean, yes,
Totally.
if you really have a bad feeling about something, folks, then don't do it. Obviously, there's warning signs and red light and red flags and red lights for freaking reasons here. So come on, don't do stupid shit. If you're getting the feeling, don't go home with that guy at the bar. Don't go home with that guy at the bar. Just saying. But you
Amen.
don't want to end. You don't want. You don't want to end up the next Dateline. But
Right.
extra. But yeah, I mean, it's yeah. But that's a good message. I really do agree with that. So now that we're at the tail end of the show,
Hmm.
this is the part where I like to get a little not hypothetical to a degree, but also just more
Yeah.
opinion. As a medium, as someone who deals with the afterlife all the time,
Hmm.
what do you think happens after we die? I'm trying to hear your theory.
This is an interesting question. I was actually just talking about this with some friends the other day. I I haven't seen firsthand, like visually, like anything cohesive other than something that I kind of associate with being a happy place, and that's nature. I find that a lot of um, my spirits that I communicate with kind of tend to come in on this plane where happiness comes from like a connectedness of like to nature specifically. So I tend to think that when we pass, our energy carries on in a way that we get to feel wholly connected to everything again. And there's no kind of like want or like missing anything anymore. It's kind of hard for me to say what that would like visually look like. It's more my experiences with psychic communication and things like that is heavily involved with just feeling emotions, and I feel like the feeling of wholeness is something that's emphasized in our next chapter of existence. I can't say what comes after that. I do believe in reincarnation, but I think as far as like envisioning an afterlife in the best way that we can as humans, I would say just a feeling of wholeness and connectedness, and just having everything that you need emotionally. Yeah.
Well, I mean, good answer, very good answer. And but you said a trigger word in there for me. Well, not like that, not that kind of trigger word, but like a word that triggers me for thoughts. But no, not that kind. I don't have those. I don't have those kind of trigger words for God's sake. But reincarnation.
Mm.
Do you do you think it somehow involves extraterrestrials, or do you think it's solely human?
Um, I definitely feel that we are not like the only species. I think, and I've even had, psychic readings and things like that where spirit guides feel somewhat extraterrestrial, like they're coming from a different, again, buzzwords, dimension or something, like another place, so to speak. And they have a different sort of like awareness and perspective of things that doesn't feel quite as like familiar as like human souls do. So I definitely think that they are in some way involved. I'm not sure. I haven't fully formed an opinion on how, like, the workings of that go. I do feel like there's some free will involved in choosing your next assignment or whatever you want to call it, life. Um, but yes, I do feel like there are some extraterrestrial involvement there. What about you? Do
Well,
you think?
that's the reason I ask always is because whenever someone says reincarnation, it just is the first thing I have to ask because I've been told by many, many, many people of different planes of the spiritual realm
Mm,
that it that 100% because I mean I'm a big believer in the fact that extraterrestrials has something to do with either our creation or evolving,
hmm.
and they I think that a lot of us are extraterrestrial spirits in human bodies because it's just where we happen to go this go around is on this planet. In
Hmm.
other go arounds, we may have been on different planets completely. Who knows? We could have been species we don't even know exist.
Yep.
We could have been goddamn grays. Ugh. But but I mean, I don't know. It's just to me, it's strange. Like we can't. We're definitely not the only species in this freaking universe, galaxy, whatever you want to call it. We're not the only species. No way in fucking hell.
Yeah.
Whether they're ultra terrestrial, which does mean interdimensional, or they're actually extraterrestrial and come from space. It might be a mix. Might be one or the other. I don't know. I doesn't really matter to me where they come from. It's just a simple
Mhm.
fact that they are here. They've been here longer than we have,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of different species that people talk to and know about. So the Truicans, my newest extraterrestrial species I've heard about, I've had two people talk to me about them, and the same day I was interviewing the last person to talk about them, the episode from the first person was releasing that day.
Hmm.
Synchronicities happen for a reason. I don't know if it's because they wanted to happen that way and they were trying to form the connection so everybody could see it.
Hmm.
I mean, apparently the Truicans are very soft-spoken and not they tend to like you to figure things out on your own in a way.
Yeah.
So I I don't know. I don't know.
No, I
But
mean, I totally agree. I definitely feel like I've lived lives on other planets. I should probably get some sort of like intergalactic regression done or something. But yeah, I definitely feel like they exist. They're
I,
here.
I mean, a lot of past life regressionists will just they have no choice. It just happens. Like they dive into it, and there's like, wait a minute, no, this isn't Earth. But I
Right.
mean, I've had enough past life regressionists tell me that they've done ones where they've done starseed past lives, and it's mainly in other planets. Like it's very rarely ever on Earth. It's always other planets when it's a starseed. So
Yeah.
it's I mean, strange things exist for a reason in this world. And that's my job is to try to figure all this out. And I keep saying there'll be a book one day. It might be 50 years down the road, but there'll be hell, 50 years down the road. I'll probably have God. I'd have to have to 20,000, 30,000 episodes by that point. I don't freaking know. It'd be a tremendous amount if this kept going that long. And I could
Yeah.
write a book at that point. I'm pretty sure, hopefully.
Couple.
Maybe, but things I've heard.
Right.
That's basically what I would probably call it. But well, I want to thank you for coming on, Lindsay, because I can ramble on about aliens for all freaking night and you'll get us nowhere, except in down wormhole after wormhole after wormhole. So before we go, why don't you tell my audience what you offer and where they can find you to see what you can do?
Sure. I'm on Instagram. My brand is Ineffable Alchemy. So it's at Ineffable Alchemy on Instagram and then ineffablealchemy.com. I offer psychic readings, mediumship readings, Reiki sessions in person and distance, and spiritual mentorship. So for people that want something more long term and more one on one, more personal. It's kind of a combination of all the aforementioned items. But yeah, that's me. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. I thank you for coming on. And there you go, folks. Go check it out. I mean, I don't know how much my audience actually goes to works with the people I have on, but I'd like to think it's all the time. But I really don't know. But I mean, there you go, guys. Another great person offering great services that I get to bring you. I love it. I love it. And as far as my services, you all know where you can find me by now. If you don't, fucking shame. But go check the outro if you really don't know. Everything's there. For all the watchers, yeah, you know where you can find me. You're the same 4 or 5 that watch every week, plus all the ones that drop in and out the whole show. So you know where you can find me. Everywhere this is streaming, everything on the bottom banner, scrolling across, you can find me everywhere there. And we'll thank Lindsay for coming on one more time. And I'm gonna bid you all good night, and I will be back on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. East, bright and early, with another great interview for you. And then back again at 7 p.m. East, I'm pretty sure. So it's gonna be a double header on Saturday for you guys, and aren't you lucky? I tell you who the guests are, but off the top of my head, I don't remember. So it's a I'm booking guests out to June. The amount of names in my head right now for this show is so long, it's ridiculous.
Be
But
surprised.
I'm banking episodes. But until next time, guys, remember the world's not normal, and it probably never will be. So just get freaking used to it.